Republicans using the power of the pen to call for change in the way Syrian refugees are vetted before coming to America. This hour, as we reported at the top of the hour, the House passing a bill that calls for strict checks as part of the admissions process. But that doesn't go far enough for Donald Trump, who calls the resettlement a ruse. And he says it's not just women and children coming here.
3 weeks ago, I'm saying, isn't that a shame? And then I said to myself, wow, they're all men. There are no men. You look at it. There are so few women, and there are so few children. And not only are they men, they're young men, and they're strong as can be. They're tough-looking cookies.
Katrina Pearson is the new national spokesperson for the Trump campaign, and she joins me now live from Dallas. Katrina, great to have you on The Real Story. So I want to ask you about Mr. Trump's comments with regard to the refugees. He's calling it a Trojan horse now. What are viewers supposed to make of that?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Gretchen, and it's great to see you, by the way.
Thank you.
We are having a very serious problem, and I'm here in Texas, and I can tell you this is the same rhetoric we were hearing just a couple of years ago when we were invaded at the southern border. They said it was just children, women and children fleeing their impoverished nations, when the DHS even outlined they were actually criminals and gang members and killers. So we don't trust the government to tell us that it's just women and children. If you look at the footage of some of these refugees, Mr. Trump is absolutely right.
You know, it's interesting because a couple of days ago, President Obama chastised Republicans for wanting this stricter process for the refugees. And he said, you know, do they have a problem with widows and children coming into this country? And so we did some research here on The Real Story. And at least the refugees who have so far come into this country since 2011, about 2,000 of them, look at the breakdown. 52.7% of them are men. And 47.3% are female. Now, some of those include children. But I think between the ages of 21 and 50, 21% of the refugees coming in here are men, 21 to 50 years old.
Well, and that's a big problem, considering that we know through history that those are prime targets for ISIS sympathizers. And of course, it's a Trojan horse. We're talking about 10,000, which will most likely be 100,000 at some point. It is the chief authority of the president to protect United States citizens and legal residents of this country. Nowhere in the oath does it say that we have to put our nation at risk at the fall of others. It's absolutely frightening, Gretchen.
Okay, so you were once a Ted Cruz loyalist. In fact, you were even on stage when the Texas senator won his election in 2012. But now you're throwing your support behind Donald Trump as his spokesperson. What changed?
Well, nothing really changed. It's more of a shift. You know, my senator was the first one in the race. I supported him wholeheartedly. I wish him luck in this campaign. His administration would be perfect to follow a Trump administration. But I've been involved in the grassroots in Texas since the beginning as one of the original Tea Party founders of the movement. And our biggest issue, Gretchen, here in Texas is immigration and border security. And there's no question that Mr. Trump is the strongest on that issue, considering that without a substantive overhaul and implementation of current laws, we're not even going to have a country. As Mr. Trump says, you can't have a nation without borders. And honestly, if you look at the states and the burden that a lot of the illegal immigrants are putting on social services, it's a fiduciary responsibility at the least.
Okay, so Donald Trump had another event last night. He turned the tables on a heckler. The man interrupted him while he was giving a speech in Massachusetts. So here's how the presidential candidate responded as security led that man away. Watch this.
It's amazing. I mentioned food stamps, and that guy who's seriously overweight went crazy. He went crazy.
So what is it about your candidate, Mr. Trump, that he can say everything, anything, all things included, that no other political candidate can say, and frankly get away with it?
Because he's made promises to voters. He's insisted from the beginning that he doesn't want to be some focus-driven group or consultant spokesperson. He wants to be Trump. That's why the campaign motto is "Let Trump be Trump." And he's made promises to voters because he respects the voters to be who he is. So when he's out there speaking to a group of people who support him, it's just like they're one-on-one with him.
So before I let you go, do you have any problem with some of the criticism that he's received for some of his comments about women?
I don't have a problem with it simply because, I mean, it's a free speech. You know, I tell people if they have a problem with what Mr. Trump says on the campaign trail, there's a college campus they can go protest free speech near them.
Katrina Pearson, great to have you on The Real Story. Thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen.
So